I know people in our parenting group have asked to talk about this, like delve deeper into the video games, the screen time kind of thing. And I'm sure you must get asked this question a lot by the parents that you mentor. So what are your answers to them normally when they are asking you questions about, they've got a lot of angst around screen times. I don't kind of know a lot of the literature that's out there now that they're reading or whatever, but what do you hear, Dayna?
Well, it's the number one fear and issue people have surrounding this type of parenting. I'd say 75% of my coaching calls are based surrounding freedom with technology.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of practice on helping parents through this. And so one thing I want to share kind of goes a little deeper. It goes into the psychology and psychological impact of what control and limiting does in the relationship. So children, they come into this world like all humans with an innate desire for freedom and respect. It really is born within us. We want to have the freedom to choose what we want to do. And we want to have the respect to have, support doing that and to not be judged and controlled. So when a parent's fearful about something, the first thing they want to do is control it. And, oh, this is Toulouse.
Hello, Toulouse.
She's a little chihuahua. She likes to sit on my lap during interviews. So she's my little buddy. So when a parent controls or limits something like that, and I know it's well-intentioned. I get it. Parents are really feared about these. There are a lot of fears put into them in a lot of different ways about these kind of things. But this is a big topic to talk about because there's a lot of angles of this and a lot of issues surrounding it and a lot of fear that I hope I can break down for you so you can let that go during this time.
Yeah.
And then forever. What happens to a child or any human being actually when something's controlled by somebody else or limited? For one, they internalize it. They tend to think that whatever is being controlled or limited must be really bad for them, and so they must be a bad person wanting it. And the other thing that happens is because a child wants freedom above all else, they start to have a very unhealthy relationship with something and they'll overuse it and they'll just be really imbalanced with it, wanting nothing but that, all in the incredible desire to be free and be respected. So what happens is a parent might, give their child freedom. They might hear that freedom, equals balance with something, and it really does. But in the beginning, a lot of parents will try it, and the child will just think like, oh my gosh, when is mom going to start limiting this again? I better do nothing but get this in while I can before she's apparently gone crazy. And so I need to do nothing but this before she comes to her senses and puts limits again.
Yeah.
And so the first, several weeks or months sometimes that a child has freedom with technology, they kind of want nothing to do but that. And the parent then sees this, judges the freedom and says, oh, this is crazy. This is all he's going to do if I don't limit it. When in fact, the behavior and the unhealthy relationship with whatever's being controlled, the control is what causes the child to want to do nothing but that. It's not the actual technology, it's the control, it's the limiting, it's a side effect of the parent's fear. So I think it's really important if you're going to lift limits and you're going to allow more freedom, you need to allow the relationship to heal between you and your child before you're going to see balance or moderation. Because if your child doesn't trust you necessarily, and they think that you're going to take it away again or limit it, you cannot see the results of freedom until that relationship's healed and they really trust that this is really what's going to happen. You really are going to have freedom. You can use it as much as you want. And yeah.
Yeah, I
Does
love
that make
that.
sense? I hope so. Because it's kind of it's a difficult explanation, I know.
I love that you said freedom equals balance. I love
Definitely.
That is so cool. Yeah.
And it is true with most children. Some kids really love gaming. My son Orion, who just walked by, he is a real gamer. He loves it. And I totally respect as much as he wants to use it. And he has his own balance with it, but he uses it much more than, say, some of my other kids used to at his age. I don't judge it. I totally support it. We have wonderful times of connection and doing other things, but he loves gaming and he loves connecting with his friends. All my children are just walking by. That was Tiffany.
I love it.
Okay,
so when you say, because again, I'd love the people that aren't familiar with, having freedom and no limits to really understand what you mean when you say supporting it. What does that look like? What would that?
Well, supporting it would be to not put limits and and controlling it, just allowing them whatever they want to do as far as technology goes and giving it enough time to see the results of balance and moderation.
Yeah.
Now, I think it really is important, though, to find support and find people that are in this mindset to support you through it, because the other piece is what you're mostly reading about technology. What you're mostly reading about technology is based on children who are using technology with a different intention. So I remember when I was a little girl, and most of my life was controlled, just like most people today and most children from my generation. When I would get home from school, the first thing I wanted to do was sit on the couch and zone out and watch the Brady Bunch. This was like a really popular show back then. And I remember watching it and just feeling the biggest relief that I was finally doing something that I wanted to do with my time. Yeah. It was a stress relief for me. It was a way that I could just zone out and finally relax. And I remember the peaceful feeling. I loved the feeling I had being able to sit down. And so, sit down and do what I wanted to do. So the intention of use was different for me than it was for my children, for example. So, and, I think when people say technology is like a drug and it's addicting, I think for people that are using it with the intention to heal and the intention to zone out or get away from reality, yes, it could have negative consequences because you're not dealing with your feelings. You're not dealing with the issues that are making you want to reach out to something like that. Yeah. And, with kids with true freedom, they're making really informed choices on what they're watching and doing and playing. Where they have true freedom, they're not using it as escapism. They're using it with the intention of learning and growth and connection and being social with other people. So the side effects of that are very different. There aren't side effects. There's no negative of that. They're connecting and, they're able to tell when they need to get up and walk around and have a change of scenery and be able to like exercise and do these kind of things. So it might look the same. So two kids could be doing the same thing in two different homes for the same length of time with a very different outcome and with very different intentions. Yeah. And so the studies that you're reading and the things that you're reading are based on kids whose lives are controlled probably all day, every day. These studies that you're seeing on technology and the results of that aren't done on unschooled kids with freedom. They're not. That's not what they're basing it on. They're doing it. They're studying like who I was when I walked in the Brady Bunch. Like, what are you feeling? I just felt relief that I could finally just stare at something. Yeah. Zone out. Yes. And so I want people to realize that, a really good analogy that I heard from one of my best friends was it's kind of like a knife in the hands of a surgeon versus a knife in the hands of a serial killer. I don't mean to use such extreme terms, but it's the knife. There's a knife, right? And there's very different intentions and you can't blame the knife. And so you really, really have to be evolved emotionally. You have to be awake, and you're listening to this podcast. So if you're already on that path, you're like halfway there. Your awakened being self needs to realize that just because video games and technology have harmed some kids, you're reading studies done on kids who are controlled, probably not happy, probably have a lot of issues, probably don't love being forced to go to school, whatever it is. But you're not reading this, about the small majority of kids who have never dealt with that and who really truly are choosing it as a learning opportunity or to play or to grow. Yeah. I really want you to, and we'll talk about that more. I'm happy anytime you want any kind of coaching or support, I'm here for you guys. If you want to make an appointment ever with me, we can comb through that and see why your child's using it, why your kids are drawn to technology. And let's comb through and see if these negative side effects are happening or if it's the limits and control that are causing the negativity in your dynamic.
Yeah. That is awesome that they can reach out to you and, have a coaching call. I'd really recommend people do that if that's something that you really struggle with, or anything where you're struggling around giving your children free choice, because Dayna was such an inspiration to me. I read your book, Radical Unschooling, very early on in my unschooling journey, as I talked about in the last interview we did. And it was so freeing for me. It was like a permission slip for me. So I do really encourage parents to talk to Dayna and even read her books. And you've got a new book out. Here's my kids coming in.
Right. This is what interviews look like for us. We're moms first, moms first and advocates second. So
yeah, that's it.